Good morning, everyone. I am Deb Cora, the sales manager for A18, and welcome. We're very excited to be presenting this program to you along with Jefferson Davis. So we'll get started in just a second and move things along pretty quickly. Jefferson, I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay, today's web briefing is targeted for our new exhibitors, and the goal is really to make sure that you're positioned to have both a positive and a productive exhibiting experience. And new exhibitors, really all exhibitors are important, but the reason we're really focusing on you, the new exhibitors, is because our attendee surveys tell us that seeing new products, new services, and new suppliers is one of their top reasons why they exhibit. And you guys keep the exhibits interesting and growing, and you're a really important dynamic part and growing part of our industry. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can do to help you get what you want from the show.
There we go.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to launch a quick poll, and I want to find out who's with us today in terms of your experience or relationship with the AIA conference. Okay, so the poll is live now. You'll see you have 4 different ways to respond. The first one is maybe it's you and your company's first time. The second one is it's your first time, but the company you're working with has exhibited before. Or the opposite, where it's the company's first time, but maybe you've exhibited with another company at AIA, and maybe you're not a new exhibitor at all. Somehow you found your way into this webinar, and you have exhibited before or recently. So I'll give you just a moment here to complete the poll. We're at 70% now. So fastest fingers, pick the radio dial button that applies, press it, and I will share the results right now. Okay, Deb.
Thanks, Jefferson.
Yeah, Deb, so you can see from the results here, the majority are completely new, so 66%. Back to you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. So unlike other shows, AIA doesn't just rent you a booth and hope it works. The last thing we want is for you to join us for one show and never come back again, right? So we've given you a roadmap to make it productive and profitable for you. So under training and webinars on the exhibitor page of the website, you'll find the new exhibitor onboarding web page. It has live and replayable webinars. This will eventually be on there as well. How-to exhibiting articles, downloadable tools, and very important, Ask the Trade Show Expert email Q&A. We will also have strategic planning exercises. Jefferson will go over one of those with you, and make sure that you bookmark, share, and access the exhibitor onboarding page. There's a link right there, but you can also find it easily just by going to the Conference on Architecture website. So you also will have Joy, Amanda, and I for any questions you might have. You can reach out to us at any time. Tiffany Rowe is our show manager. She will answer any questions for you as well that are operations related. If you do have operations questions while you're on this webinar and you have time to ask them, Tiffany is sitting in and she can answer those as well. So I'd like to actually backtrack a little bit now and just let you know a little bit about Jefferson before he takes over for pretty much the remainder of the webinar. He is a trade show productivity expert. We are very excited to be working with him now. He's a consultant, trainer, speaker, and author with over 30 years of experience. Jefferson is highly respected in the industry, and we are, again, so glad to have him working with us. Jefferson, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you, Deb. And again, pleasure to be here with everybody. I always tease people that, you know, I don't know much, but I do know trade shows. You know, like all of you sitting here today, I have spent my own money, invested my own time at about 200 shows. And I got to be honest, I always felt that the only time that I heard from the show organizer was when they wanted to sell me something, or they wanted a check, or they sent me that service kit telling me all that stuff that I have to do. So how cool is it to be partnered with a great organization like AIA and Informa Exhibitions, who really cares enough about exhibitors, to not just rent you concrete, but give you that game plan, that roadmap. And that's what I want to share today. A lot of the inner workings of the roadmap are the key components of the consulting training I do with companies. And by the way, the average company spends about $10,000 to work with me. So you're going to get this stuff for free, right? You're going to have unlimited free access to the same ideas, concepts, strategies that amongst the clients where I've done tracking, we've been able to generate. Now we're pushing almost $800 million in show results. So you ever have questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can reach me through the Ask the Trade Show Expert and also on the new exhibitor onboarding page. So let's get started here. Let's dive in, right? Here's one of the big things, right? When I look at the factors that limit exhibitors' value and results, often they tend to view a trade show as an event, like it's 2 days in New York City. It's not just 2 days. We have to shift from what I call an event perspective to a campaign perspective. It's at least 6 months. 3 months prior, 2 days at, 3 months after, at least. And you have to be taking both logistical, operational, and strategic action in these 3 critical time frames: pre, at, and post. And that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that we're putting the right content in front of you at the right time frames in the show execution cycle, so you are managing the program as best you can. Because like a chain, if you neglect any one of these time frames or these links, then the integrity or the strength of the entire chain is compromised. Okay, so we want to make sure that is that you're seeing this, and you're here today, so I think you get that. So here's the second big problem. First, we have what I call the event mentality or perspective. Second is the average exhibitor spends 95% of their pre-show time on logistics and operations. What do I mean by that? Well, get the space, get the booth, get the graphics, get the products, get the people, ship them and fly them there, set it up, tear it down, send it home. Do all that on time and on budget, and we call that pre-show planning. I don't really call that pre-show planning. I call that dealing with logistics and operations. And you have to do that stuff, right? I get that. But here's the problem. The only thing it guarantees is that your booth, your people, your products show up. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to get anything from the big investment of human and financial capital that you're making in the AIA conference. Okay, so we got to carve out some time, a little time, right, to address what I would call the critical exhibiting success factors beyond logistics and operations. And in my 30 plus years of doing this, in my 27 years as a consultant trainer, I've really been on the hunt. What are those things that make the difference between an expensive appearance and a productive, profitable investment? And here's what I believe them to be. Number one is defining our outcomes. Number two is using the principle of selective attraction. Number three is managing the visitor experience. Number four is lead management. And number five is measuring both how well we executed our exhibit and where and how we got value and results. So to put a little color into these 5 factors, let's start with outcomes. So this is the process that I call exhibiting by objectives. Jot that down, exhibiting by objectives. I think there's only 2 ways that we exhibit. We either exhibit by objectives, where we have reasons converted to goals, backed up with action plans, or we exhibit by hope. We rent space, we show up, and we hope, right? And if you're not getting a big-time return on investment from shows, this is the starting point. This would be the first place I would go in defining what success looks like for you after the show, 90 days, 180 days, a year after the show, and converting those to goals and creating those action plans that address your sales goals, your marketing goals, and your customer relationship management goals, and simultaneously taking advantage of the many, many opportunities that the AIA conference presents for you. So that is success factor number one. As Stephen Covey said in his excellent book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, begin with the end in mind, right? And there's 2 creations to everything in life. There's the mental creation, or the blueprints, and then there's the physical creation, actually doing the work. The better the first creation, the more effective the ultimate creation. Number 2, selective attraction. Okay, AIA is going to attract a lot of attendees, way more than any one of us as an exhibitor have the ability to engage and interact with. So here's the thing. You've got to really determine who are the right people for you, how much is enough, what is your value proposition. Out of all these exhibits at the show, why should they put your company on their agenda? Why should they visit you? And then you've got to use pre and at show marketing to get in their mind and on their agenda. So we're going to walk you through that, selective attraction. Number 3, manage the visitor experience. This really comes down to 3 very specific things. Your exhibit, your booth, how you're showing, telling, presenting, or demonstrating your products or services, and your booth staff. What you're trying to do here is make sure all 3 of these elements are synchronized, harmonized, right? So there's an interactive, high-quality visitor experience that gets that visitor to commit to a clear next action. Manage the visitor experience, number 3. Number 4, lead management. So we have to think about, what does a good lead look like for you? Then we have to develop your visitor qualification process. What are the questions that your booth staff should be asking, and in what sequence? And we got to make sure that they have a device or a capture tool that makes it easy for them to elicit and capture the right information. And then we got to make sure that our staff is trained to actually manage interactions. And then, of course, we got to follow up on our leads. So we're going to walk you through how to improve that process. Number 5, measurement and learning. We want to come up with a set of metrics so you can assess how well did you execute your exhibit, where did you get value, and ultimately, what can you learn from this experience so you're even better at your next show. So here's the promise, and here's the warning. The promise: if you address these 5 factors well, you will not only win at A18, you'll win at pretty much every show you do. Here's the warning: if you neglect, skip over, avoid any one or any combination of these 5 factors, your ultimate value and return on investment is going to be limited or compromised. So here's a question for each of you on this web briefing today, right now. Coming into this briefing, if you had to score your company's current performance in these 5 areas on a scale of 1 to 5, a 1, very effective. I'm sorry, a 5, very effective. A 1, ineffective. How would you score? Go ahead into your workbook right now and jot down in your workbook, put a 1 to 5 by each one of these factors. 5, you've got this absolutely nailed. There's 0 room for improvement. 1, you're not really addressing this well at all. Score those 5 areas, right? Because that's going to help you as you work through our new exhibitor onboarding program. It's going to help you determine where to really focus your attention and your energy and your efforts. And by the way, I would also like to ask each of you on the briefing today, which one of these 5 factors do you feel right now is most limiting your ability to get more from trade shows? What I'd like everyone to do on the briefing with me is go to your console. You'll see a tab that says questions right now. I would like you to just type the number or numbers of which of these factors do you feel are most limiting your ability to get more from trade shows. Go ahead and do that now, and I'll give you a moment. And by the way, I'll share some of this as we move through the web briefing. So what do you think is most limiting your performance? Where do you need to make your improvements? I think it was Dr. Phil who says it really well. He says, you can't fix what you don't acknowledge, right? So for us to make improvements, we first got to acknowledge that there's areas that we can improve, and then we got to identify what those areas are and what are we going to do about them, right? So that's what we're going to be working on here. So let me take a look in our queue here. Getting a lot of responses. Thank you to everybody who's engaging and playing along with us here today. So we're seeing number 3, number 2, number 5. No one's really defined number 1 yet. You know, I've really got all 3s, 2s, and 5s. But I think number 1 will surprise you too as we move on here. So thanks for sharing that. Really appreciate your input. Let's keep on moving, okay? So grab your pen, grab a calculator. I'm going to walk you through, if you have not seen this formula before, I'm going to give you a mathematical, scientific way to not only plan and execute your exhibit, but calculate what the potential sales or revenue opportunity is for your company. Before we do this, I want to say very clearly that this is a formula. It's not a guarantee. It's not a promise. But I will tell you this. If you execute the 5 factors well that I talked about, and if your numbers are accurate, you may be surprised how accurate this formula is, because this is what I do with all of my clients. We sit down when we start defining our outcomes. So let's get started. Grab your pen, grab a calculator. Okay. So the AIA conference has 16 exhibiting hours. We're going to try to win the game from our exhibit. Anything that happens in the golden hours in the morning before the exhibit opens, and anything that happens in the entertaining hours in the evening after the exhibit closes will be the icing on the cake. But we're going to try to win the game from our exhibit because that's where we're making the big investment. So you have 16 exhibiting hours in this show. We're going to call that your playing field. Question: how many people are you going to have standing in your booth on average for the purpose of talking to booth visitors during those 16 hours? Jot down your number. And here's the rule of thumb: 50 square feet per exhibit staffer. So if you're in a 10 by 10 booth, you have the space for 2, maybe 3. So I want you to jot down how many people are going to be your full-time staffing equivalent in your booth. If I walk into your booth at 10 a.m. on day 1, if I walk into your booth at 3 p.m. on day 2, on average, how many people? Now, listen carefully to this next variable. If you're standing in your booth looking like you want to talk to people versus sitting in a chair behind a table with a cell phone in one hand and a Starbucks in the other, is it realistic that you could talk to 3 visitors on an average hour? What about 4? What about 5? I want you to pick a number here between 3 and 5. 3 is conservative, 4 is moderate, 5 is maybe aggressive. Then multiply it all together and you have one of the most important numbers you will ever understand about trade shows. I call it your exhibit interaction capacity. It is a pretty accurate target of the number of face-to-face one-to-one interactions you can have in your exhibit. So in my example on the screen here, I have 96. How many do you have? Go to your question queue again and go ahead and just type over the number you have at this point. okay? So I'd like to see what you have. Now, here's the thing, right? To me, trade shows, the magic power of trade shows is face-to-face contact, right? It's really, to me, about face and next. And now that I understand this formula, I understand that I have a limited or a finite amount of interaction capacity. And if I don't like this number, if I go, man, 96, that's not good, that's too low, change the variables. Can I change the number of hours in the show? No, they're fixed. Can I change the number of booth staff? Within reason, don't overstaff. On the other hand, don't understaff. Can I change the number of interactions per hour per staffer? Yes. With a good pre-show marketing campaign, with a well-designed exhibit, and a well-trained booth staff, you definitely can increase the number. But if you've never used this formula before, I want you to start in that 3 to 5 range. Okay, so 96 interactions. So let me see what's coming in here in terms of feedback. The range so far, we have one exhibitor who submitted a low of 96. The highest I've seen so far is 320. Here's what's exciting about this number. This is what I really want you to get. If you identify and attract, on the low end, this 96, on the high end, the 320, of the right people, you will win the game. You win the game of exhibiting. If you get in their mind before you get to the conference, you'll win the game before kickoff. So we're going to keep building upon that idea there of winning the game before kickoff. Now, let's take this a few steps further. Now, some percentage of your interactions are going to convert to a lead, and some percentage of your leads will convert to business. There was a study from the Center for Exhibition Industry Research of exhibitors, and they found that on average, 1 out of 4 interactions convert to a lead, and 1 out of 5 leads convert to business. Okay, that's a benchmark study. So you could use those as starting points. 1 out of 4 interactions convert to lead, 1 out of 5 convert. But let's say in my example that I'm jumping out of the lead thing and I'm just saying over time, 1 out of 4 of my interactions convert to business, an order of some form. So that would give me what? 24. Now, if you can talk with your accounting department and get a handle on what your average sale amount is or your average order amount, in this example, 5,000. Now you can predict, provided the numbers are accurate, you can predict with amazing clarity what the potential sales opportunity for your company is. Now again, this is not in hand by closing time, this is over time. Okay, and here's the thing. Okay, so if you only need 96 interactions to succeed, the AIA conference is expecting 23,000 attendees. Do you see why I'm saying it's not that hard to win if you know your outcomes and you're executing around a good game plan? For me to win the game in this example, I just need to get 96 of the best people to my booth, and 1 out of 4 of them convert to business over time, and I'll win this game. Okay? Now, you may have questions on this formula, and if you do, this would be a good time to go to your question queue. Just type them in, and I'm going to open the queue here in a little bit, and we'll take a look at those. I really want you to understand this mathematical-based approach to exhibiting because it makes your life so much easier. You don't have to guess, right? You can predict, right, what's going to happen, and now you just execute around these numbers, okay? All right, so let's get into what we're going to do to help you get there, okay? Like I said, you know, as Deb said, we don't just rent you concrete and go, I hope it works out, good luck, right? Or other shows do that, but not us, right? So you're going to receive 5 strategic planning exercises. Here's my recommendation. Get your sales management, your marketing management, your exhibit management, put a 90-minute block on your calendar around these dates, do these exercises. If you were hiring me as a consultant, I would come in and drag you through these. I would push you through these. I would pull you through these. We would work through all 5 of these, right? So you can see you're going to be getting the first one tomorrow, okay, on defining your outcomes. And nobody really said that factor number 1 was their limiting factor. But I'll tell you this, 76% of exhibitors have no specific goals for trade shows. They have reasons, but here's what I've found. Reasons are not enough. Until they are put through the grist mill, converted to a outcome, and backed up with a written action plan, that's the place to start. So notice these dates. Now, two things. You're going to receive these exercises by email, so please watch your email. I know you get a lot of email. These are not sales emails. Open them. But, hey, you can grab all 5 of these at any time by going to the new exhibitor onboarding page that Deb showed you at the beginning here. The only one thing I can say, do these 5 things and your odds of success are extremely high. Avoid them and you're operating on high risk, really at risk here. Number 2, we're not just going to give you the content, the exercises, but we're going to give you 3 implementation tools. The first one is a cost control tool where you're going to be able to dump all of your dollars and benchmark your spend and pick up ways to save money in the main areas. You'll see it in the upper left on the screen here. The second one, 16-week planning tool. That is a blend of logistical, operational, and strategic, one document. It's very much like if you're going to fly to New York for the show, one of the reasons that you're going to get there safely is because your pilot has a really in-depth checklist. This is very similar, the 16-week planning tool. And we're going to do a marketing webinar. Put this date on your calendar. Remember, if you can get the 96 people to your booth, you're going to win it. We're going to take a deep, deep, deep dive on April 12th of exactly how to identify your target, find your value proposition, and communicate through multiple channels. So make sure you join us for that. All the tools are important, but the end of the game is going to be right here. Okay, we've got a tool, that performance tool. When you plug in your numbers, it will automatically create a dashboard for you using 4 performance metrics and 5 value metrics. All you do is plug in your numbers and it'll auto-calculate for you, and you will have the tail of the tape. So make sure you download the tools. Make sure if you have questions with them, email us. Make sure you use them. Again, this is the equivalent of a $10,000 trade show consulting training program that you're getting free as part of your package. And there's no sales pitches here. Not here to sell you anything, only here to make sure that you are positioned to succeed. All right, now the next thing, and Deb had mentioned this, you have unlimited access to me and my team via the new exhibitor onboarding page. You'll see a button that says Ask the Experts. You got questions, we're here to help, right? Essentially, AIA and Informa is paying to have us available for you. So don't be shy. Fire away with your questions. And next, this is an absolute game changer. This is a program we created 7 years ago. We call it Exhibiting Effectiveness Evaluation. So we're going to be at the show, and we're going to come visit you in action, and we are going to do a 21-point expert evaluation of your exhibit in action. We're going to look at your overall exhibit. We're going to look at your product presentation, and we're going to look at your staff. Please understand this. We are not critics. We are not judges. We are lights. We're trying to shine a bright spotlight on what you're doing well so you can keep doing it. And we're going to try to find what are the 1 or 2 or 3 things that you can do to take your exhibit even higher. And if we see something that we think that you can change right now at the show, if you're open to it, we'll be happy to point it out to you. We're not mystery shoppers. We'll be wearing branded apparel, black apparel that says E3, Exhibiting Effectiveness, and we'll come up and introduce ourselves so you'll know we're there. And I'm looking forward to that because we've done 23,700 evaluations. And I've had so many exhibitors literally change their exhibit in one show by making 1 or 2 small tweaks. After the show, by email, you're going to get an in-depth report. You know what's cool about this report? You're not only going to see your individual score on all 21 questions, but you're going to see how you scored relative to the size of the category, if you're an inline linear, or if you're a peninsula, or if you're an island. And you're going to see how you scored relative to all the exhibits we evaluate in A18. Priceless tool here, free, part of your package. My recommendation here is read the report and make the changes. Sometimes what we've seen over the years, one or two little tweaks in an exhibit changes everything. All right, so this would be a moment to catch our breath here. I know I've thrown a lot at you quickly. If you have any questions, go into your question and type away right now. And I'm going to answer our questions on the back end because I feel like I'm running a few minutes behind here, but we're definitely going to cover everything. So I'm going to bring Deb back on. Deb, take us through what you think we need to know about the attendees and what we need to be prepared for with the attendees.
Okay, thanks, Jefferson. So who attends the AIA conference? Well, that would be the key decision makers, and they come to the expo. The expo delivers important decision makers and influencers to you, which is obviously the process that Jefferson's been talking about. The majority of our attendees specify. They are looking for potential products. They are looking for potential products that they will use either immediately or in the future. And as you can see by the list, again, like I said, the majority of our attendees specify products. So what do the attendees want? Well, to find the latest products, services, and trends. And I can tell you that this is always one of the top responses in any survey, pre or post show, that we send to our attendees who are registered. They are looking for focused, relevant information pre-show and pre-show communication to help them plan their visit. So I can't say enough about sending out pre-approach emails to your key potential clients. Help make it easy for them. The easier you make it for them, the more response you will get to those emails. Information and interactions on site allow them to understand and easily compare products and services. So have a little spiel ready. Make sure that you know exactly what your elevator pitch is so that you can catch them within the first 3 seconds as they walk by, if they are not somebody coming by who's already been invited. Interactive displays and presentations are always a great thing to have in your booth. Showing products in both the real-world setting, demonstrating performance, quality, and your, obviously, salability. So how do the attendees behave? Well, architects are definitely a unique breed. They tend to plan ahead. They set their agendas, and they visit booths with products and services that support what they're currently looking for, but they're always planning ahead. Again, your pre-approach emails can help in their planning, and they do appreciate that. Also, they have a very low tolerance for selling sizzle. They want something that has substance and something that they can be educated on. They come to the show to learn. So anything that you have that you can use to educate them is a great tool.
Yeah, but also we're going to do on-site this year for the first time. We're doing a session with architects, a panel discussion. Is that right?
Yes, it is. We're going to be having a session on the Wednesday afternoon. I believe it's at 3 o'clock before the show actually opens, where we will go a little bit more in-depth on the habits of architects based on very in-depth research that AIA will be providing and offering also for future use. And they will go over just about everything you need to know about the interests of architects and why the expo is important to them.
Okay.
And we'll send out more info on that very soon. Okay, so quickly, I just want to go over the exhibitor service manual. You can find it on the exhibitor page of the website. I would strongly suggest that you carefully read through it and check out every deadline. I would hate for you to miss any deadline that could cost you an opportunity to get in front of the attendees. Again, Tiffany Rowe is our show manager. You can reach out to her anytime with any questions you have. And also, before we move on, I would suggest you also take a quick look at the booth specifications and the labor jurisdictions specifically for this show in New York. It's going to be very important that you're very familiar with the labor jurisdictions for the show. So, suggestions for first-time exhibitors. Well, again, plan and prepare your pre-show marketing. Send out those pre-approach emails. Number two, I think, is probably one of the most important things that we can say today to you, and it's actually more operations-based. Do not assume that your orders have been received. This is key. Confirm everything. Check with Freeman, check with the show organizer, your shipping company. Correct any mistakes way ahead of time before you get to that show floor. The one thing I can't stress more is waiting till you get to the show to place your orders. Okay, I think we're ready for the question and answer portion now. Quickly, don't forget, again, to call us with any questions that you have. It is so important that you don't hold back. We definitely want to hear from you. So, and those contact information changes. We do get them from you guys. We do appreciate that. If somebody leaves or somebody's job changes, make sure we know, because all communication is sent to our primary contact. So I think we're ready now for those questions, Jefferson.
All right. Let me take a peek in here. I've also got a few more slides to cover. We've got about 5 minutes left. So let's go ahead and hit a few of the questions. So the first question, I think, is in my wheelhouse. It says, for target sales orders, do more booth staff mean more chances? Yes, within reason, though. The staffing rule of thumb is 50 square feet per staffer. One of the biggest mistakes that we see exhibitors making is overstaffing a booth. If you're in a small booth and I'm walking down the aisle and I look in your booth and I see 4 or 5 people in a 10 by 10 booth, number one, it's a very intimidating space to walk into. Number two, it's going to be way overcrowded. There's going to be no room for me to even enter. So remember the staffing rule of thumb, 50 square feet per staffer. Now, that does level off if you're a larger exhibitor. There's a point. The next question is, okay, so if our product or company is based off spec projects with architects, how do you try and figure out the potential sales opportunity if it's not a direct? So if you're dealing with an architect who is specifying the products that are used in the build, and you get spec'd in, the odds are going to be pretty high of you getting the order. So what I would be targeting is not necessarily the ultimate sales orders, but a key outcome for me after I've met with an architect and talked about my solution is asking them, hey, based on what you've learned so far, does this sound like a product that might fit and therefore you would be comfortable speccing, right? So the commitment that I'm looking for from the architect at the end of the interaction is not that he or she's writing the order. The commitment is that he or she has enough information and might be comfortable or excited enough to spec us when they do design the plans. Is there anything you would add to that, Deb, on that question about, you know, if we're not selling direct per se, but if we're trying to spec? Is there anything you would add?
I think the only thing I would add is that relationships mean so much. The reason why trade shows work is because you create relationships. Meeting somebody, learning to trust them through conversation is so key. Top of mind awareness, you know, being known before you're needed. I mean, all the cliches fit for exhibiting at a trade show, but being known before you're needed says volumes. You know, it's a very long sales process when you're a specified product. They could be looking at products that they're not going to actually order for months, you know, a year. But when it comes time for them to place that order, if they know you and they trust you and they have a relationship with you, they're going to call you over somebody else that they find via SEO.
Right. Yeah, you know, Deb said it well. When you're engaging visitors at a show, one of my key phrases is make the human bond before you go for the business bond. People, at the end of the day, spec and buy from people they know, like, trust, and believe are going to do what's right for them. So it's not that you're necessarily going for the order. Most of you aren't going to be going for orders at the show anyway, but what you are going to be going for is a meeting of the minds that, yes, I like your products. Yes, I either want to spec it or I need to learn more so I'm comfortable, and you're going for the follow-up. So the sales order is the end game, the relationship and the education is the means. We have a few more questions. I'm going to jump back in because we're pretty close to the buzzer. I want to get through the rest of this, and then I'm going to come back and hit the rest of our questions in just a moment. These next few slides will only take a minute or two here. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Sometimes the best way to succeed is just don't make the mistakes that so many exhibitors do. Mistake number one, as Deb mentioned, is failure to really engage with the exhibitor service manual. Almost every hassle, every headache, and every cost overrun that you're likely to experience could probably have been avoided if you'd spent a little more time with that service manual. It's not the most exciting thing to do, but you got to do it and order ahead and pay attention to the deadlines and check everything. Number two, your expectations. When you ran exhibit interaction capacity, you really came close to reality. If you had the capacity for 96 interactions and you walked into the show thinking, well, if I don't get at least 300 leads, I'm not going to come back, you could see that it was probably never possible for you to get 300. So expectations are everything, and we want to make sure that you're in touch with reality, which is one of the reasons why we're giving you all these tools. Number three, reasons aren't enough. Got to have goals. Number four, either relying on or blaming your location for your success or failure. Here's my rule on booth location. Number one, there's no perfect location. There's just not, right? I mean, you can find exhibitors front and center who struggle and exhibitors back in a corner near a restroom who have a great show. Number two, I'll never let my location be the reason I struggle, because I can do good targeted pre-marketing to drive the right people to my booth no matter where I'm located. Number three, I'll never count on my location as being the reason why I'm going to succeed. Number five, which ties into pre-marketing. How many exhibiting companies are in this show, Deb?
We should have about 800-900 by the time we're done.
800-900. Everybody write that number down, okay? This is a big show. The attendees have overchoice about where to invest their attention and time. Number five, to me, is not a maybe, oh, I'd like to. If you're going to win this game, you've got to do something before you get there. We're going to deep dive that with you on April 12th. Number six, you can do all this stuff right and still struggle because your booth doesn't work. I walk by, it's not clear what you do. I can't get into your booth. There's no value proposition. I can't tell what makes your products different than anybody else's. Your booth staff might be making all kinds of mistakes. So you got to give careful thought to how you're going to stage, show, tell, and present your solutions. Number seven. Number eight, your booth staff. You got to have enough staff. They've got to stay in the game the entire show. They need to be standing up, smiling, and greeting people, not sitting back in the corner hoping that people stop. Eating, drinking in the booth, texting, working on a computer. Any one or combination of these are going to hurt you. Number nine, not capturing leads or not following up, right? Because most of you are not there to write deals at the show. So your real product is going to be the people you meet, the commitment you get, the next steps, lead management. Number 10, the lack of time perspective in evaluating the results of the show. As a new exhibitor, I'm going to make a pretty strong statement. I'm going to recommend that if this is the right audience for you, if you sell through and to architects, you are absolutely in the right show. I don't think there's any way you're going to be able to judge the ultimate value of the show from one attempt. I'm going to suggest that you make at least a 3-show commitment. Ask any exhibitor who's been in the show for years. You'll hear year 3 seemed to be the watershed event for most. They got in year 1, they kind of learned the ins and outs and how things worked. Year 2, they were familiar with the show, more of the attendees were familiar with them. Year 3 seemed to be the watershed event. So don't stop short. Okay, now, learn and stay committed. If you have enough staff, get out and take in the show. Walk the show floor. Look for booths that rock, right? Be where the architects are, right? Don't just go to your booth, have dinner with your staff, and go to your hotel room. Attend the social events. Attend the networking events. You know, it's showtime, so be where the attendees are going to be. Use that exhibit performance tool because you're going to be able to not only measure, but you're going to learn lessons that are going to make you better. And final point, be patient, right? Things take time. You know, success takes time. Somebody once said, there is no elevator to success, but there's definitely a staircase. And sometimes it has more floors than others, depending upon, you know, so many variables. But I promise you this, right? If you learn and use the resources, if you apply, if you stay committed to this incredible opportunity called the AIA conference, there will come a day in the future when you look back and go, what a difference a trade show can make. And that's what we want most for you. Okay, so get ready. The stage is set, but you got to do your part, right? You're going to have access to the audience, knowledge, resources, tools. How successful do you want to be, right? Let's make that happen. And it's not going to be what you heard here. It's going to be what you do. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge intelligently applied at the right time frames for trade shows is power. So with that, I'm going to go back into question queue. And while I do that, Deb, any additional thoughts or comments or anything you want to share with the group while I open up?
No, let's try and get some questions.
All right, so here we go. Do we have to register to get an E3 at the show? And the answer is no. No, if you're a new exhibitor, it is a part of your exhibit package. If you're an exhibitor who is not a new exhibitor and you're on this webinar, reach out to us. We'll be happy to put you on the list, you know, time permitting, but we'll make it work for you. Deb, do the exhibitors receive some form of a attendee list, or can they acquire an attendee list?
No, we do not have attendee lists available to exhibitors.
Okay, so attendee lists are not. So my advice to all exhibitors listening, start with your house list. Number one, start with your house list. Go through and identify customers you're already doing business with, prospects that are in your sales funnel, and target accounts that you would like to have engagement with. That next question, I think I addressed that earlier. Does my booth location make a difference? And I told you my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
You know, there's no perfect location. I wouldn't count on it to be the reason I succeed. I wouldn't let it be the reason I fail then. Okay, how do I measure the value of sponsorships? That's going to come down to what sponsorship you invest in, how it reaches the audience you want to reach, the number of impressions, the number of engagements, a cost per, and the impact on their perceptions of your company. Deep topic, a little beyond the scope. We're going to talk about that in our marketing webinar. Next question, how do we pre-market then? Join us on April 12th. We're going to do a deep dive on that topic.
So Jefferson, if they're looking for an attendee list in order to send out pre-approach information or post-show, we do offer the opportunity for mailing pieces through a third-party mail house. We provide the list to them, and you send your one-page mail piece to them, and they take care of everything. So you can ask your sales rep, either Joy or Amanda, about that, or reach out to me if that's something that you're interested in doing.
Okay, yeah, that's. I appreciate you adding that because that really helps. You know, so you can market to the attendees. The difference is you just can't access a drilled down list at this point.
Correct.
But there is a way for you to get in front of the right attendees. We're going to take a deep dive on that on the webinar, but also reach out to your account exec. This question is, do exhibitors come from other states? Deb, the exhibitor base is probably worldwide, yeah?
It is. It's international.
So it's from all over the world, not just the U.S. Exhibitors come from all over. Deb, this question's in your wheelhouse. You said to attend the events. Is there a list of off the exhibit floor events that are going on that exhibitors can look to know social events and stuff?
Yes, right on the website. If you go to the main page of the website and you click on the three little lines on the top right-hand side, that little hamburger, there is how to get around, a schedule. There's all kinds of information there on what's being offered during the course of the show.
Okay. And then we got another question here. This one says, we are from China. Will attendees care only about Chinese people in the booth? What would you say to that one?
No, not at all. We have quite a few exhibitors from China, and it's the product that they're interested in. I would definitely suggest, though, to not let language be a barrier. Do whatever you can to engage with the attendees.
Okay, and then the last question was similar to the exhibitor one. The attendees, do they come from other areas and other countries?
They sure do. The American Institute of Architects organization has both members and non-members that attend the shows for continuing education and for obviously finding new product, existing product. But although it is a national association here in the States, we have members from all over the world.
Okay, someone was went to the conference on architecture.com getting around. Is that the right URL for your events, conferenceonarchitecture.com?
It sure is,
Okay,
and getting around is a great thing to look at.
Getting around. So they were asking, are all of the events listed on this page free to attend?
Not all of them, no. And when you go in as an exhibitor and you can look at everything that there is to register for, some things have costs associated to them and some are free.
Okay. And then next question is there a lead collection software available?
Yes, we do have lead retrieval systems that you can order. You have your E-code that was given to you when you contracted on your booth, and you can also go directly to the exhibitor service manual.
Exhibitor service manual, that's where you'll find all.
Yeah, it's through Experience. It's in the exhibitor service manual, and there's multiple ways that you can utilize it, so you just need to pick the one that's best for you.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of options from a fixed tabletop that plugs in to a Swap, which is a downloadable app that you basically turn your smartphones into a lead capture device, which is really cool because then you could be getting leads anywhere around the show. So yeah, all right. That's all I'm seeing for questions. We've run a little bit over. I want to thank everybody first for being an exhibitor at the AIA conference. You've got a great partner here with AIA and Informa. As you can see, we're committed to your success. Just make sure to engage. Don't be shy. Reach out with questions. Download and use the tools. View the webinars. Do what you've got to do. If you follow the blueprint we've laid out for you, your odds of success are going to be extremely high. So with that, Deb, any closing thoughts from Informa AIA?
No, again, I just would suggest that you do take care of getting all the knowledge you can with the labor jurisdictions, booth specifications. If you have any questions operations-wise, please reach out to Tiffany. She's got so much information available for you. And just thank you, Jefferson, and thank you, exhibitors, so much for joining us today. We do value your commitment to the show. Please take advantage of this new exhibitor onboarding webpage, and remember to ask questions. We're here to help you. Have a successful show, and have a good day.
All right. Thank you, Deb. And last point, please be sure to complete the survey you'll receive by email in just a few moments. So this concludes our A18 New Exhibitor Web Briefing. Thanks for logging in, everybody.